When you focus on these things, it will limit your frustration, limit your anxiety, and will allow you not to give up. Otherwise, I have seen in my experience, we give up very soon when we don't see result. And to all those people who are not seeing result, my recommendation would be to just Google the Chinese bamboo tree story. Listen to that story, watch that story. It is available everywhere. You will really see the difference it can make in your life, which is when you don't see result, it is basically helping you to give you more result, bigger result. It's just matter of time.
Welcome to Inspire Someone Today podcast, a show where we dive into the stories and insights that has the power to create ripples of inspiration in your life. I'm your host Srikanth, and I'm thrilled to be with you on this journey of inspiration. Welcome back, my dear listeners, for yet another episode of Inspire Someone Today. Joining us today is Rahul Sharma. Rahul is a mindset coach, an entrepreneur, and a successful author of a book, Habits for Miracles. It's an absolute joy and honor to have Rahul joining us on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. Rahul, long time. So finally we made it. So welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you, Shrikant. Fortunate to be here to share with your listeners few inspirational tips as well as some words of motivation from my book, Habits for Miracles.
So what was interesting, what caught my attention when we first spoke, Rahul, was your journey that started off in India and you traveled to the west. From the bylanes of Ujjain, you are in the power centers of Washington, D.C. Walk us through how did this journey unfold? You have been now close to 2 decades in the U.S. and now playing multiple roles out there. How did this whole journey unfold for Rahul?
Sure. So I started my career back in India from Mumbai. And before I was starting my career, I was having a conversation with my father with some good wishes, some word of wisdom. And one thing my father told me that do not look for any new employer for at least 3 years. You are starting a new job, you will be tempted, a lot of opportunities will come your way. But my recommendation would be attain knowledge, work with full focus and spend 3 years. So that time I did not realize that, okay, why he's so much adamant about the 3 years. And I started working. And since that was in my mind, so the moment my 3 years happened, I thought that, okay, now is the time for me to look out for a change. So I was looking out for a change because I was getting a little monotonous with my work. Met with few key stakeholders back in the IT organizations in Mumbai. And somehow nothing got interested to me that, okay, I should move. And after those few conversations within my own self, doing some mind talk, I realized that maybe I should further my skills in a subject that is very interesting to me, or which was organization development. So I thought to pursue my master's in organization development. And that's where I started preparing for GRE, GMAT, and then TOEFL. And took 2 weeks leave from my employer and clear GRE, and then landed in US to do my master's in OD. Now, one thing I want to tell you, I was more interested in doing PhD. And so I applied to close to 8 schools, 7 PhD school, and there was only one school I applied for master's, which was my plan B. And unfortunately, I did not made it to any of the PhD schools, citing that I never studied psychology. And psychology was one of for the PhD in OD, that was one of the critical subject. So I got rejected on all those PhD schools, but this master's degree program still offered me a place. And then I just grabbed it, and that's how I'm here. And it's been 20 years. Great experience of the environment, experience of diversity, and blessed to be with the organization for so many years. And now I'm on my own. My journey is to empower young managers to become empowered leaders, and I'm very glad what I'm doing. That is something gives me immense motivation to see the transformation in others.
Wonderful. Great start to the story. And did you end up studying psychology along the line now?
Yes, yes, I did. So my master's program was not having that kind of a requirement, but since I was here throughout those 2 years, I was able to take up a one-on-one course on psychology, human psychology, behavioral psychology, and have a decent understanding of how people behave, the way they behave. And that's how my career, I've been into this people management role throughout, and I was able to adapt to other people as well as understand their psychology, and able to help them. Knowing them, helping them is one thing, but when you know what help they are looking for, it really makes a difference. So definitely it added tremendous value to my career and my personal life.
Right. So you made a great pivot in terms of deciding to pursue studies further. That's what helped you to kind of pack your bags, move to the state, and doing what you've been doing today. Was there any other pivotal moments in your career that was influential in the way your career shaped?
Yes, there was, and that one was the leader with whom I was working back in India as well as back in US. Many a times we think what we want to do, but once we get direction from our leaders, from our mentors, that really makes a difference. And I was fortunate to have amazing mentors throughout my life, and getting direction from them from time to time, getting that words of wisdom from time to time is very, very critical, because I believe we sometimes are unable to see our own blind spots, and we don't know what we don't know. And that's where the like-minded people, the mentors, your well-wishers comes into play, because they tell you things that we don't know. And interaction with them, having their support was another critical factor for me, Shrikant, to take this decision to move to this country, take the decision to be into the role that I have been. So that mentor and leader really played a critical role for me.
And now fast forward today. So you are a successful author of a book that you have written, Habits for Miracles. And that is around a very beautiful concept around miracles. So we all believe that miracles should happen, but your take on this miracles is slightly different. I will let you to kind of talk to us what miracles in your book is all about. How did you end up coining this phrase, and what does it mean?
Sure, sure. So I agree that everyone wish that we have miracles in life, but miracles do not happen just automatically. And the way I have defined miracles in my book is anything that you could not do before and you are able to do now is itself a miracle. And this terminology means different to different people. So for someone who is battling with the cancer disease, overcoming that disease is a miracle. A basketball sports person, a buzzer beater would be a miracle. For someone looking to get admitted into IAS or IPS, getting that admission is a miracle. But no one really see that what all goes into that miracle happening, what all goes into that overcoming of that disease or having that buzzer beater. It is, the way I look at it, it is the determination of that individual. It is the positive mindset of that individual that really make things happen. So we all have the greatness in us to create our own miracles. So if we work with the kindness, if we work with the determination, we will be able to achieve things that we could not do before. And that is how I use the word miracles. And miracles is an acronym I've used in my book. So there are 8 habits for each of these letters. that I have explained in my book. If we can inculcate, we can live a very healthier and positive life.
And as a quick synopsis for all of our listeners, would you want to share what those 8 acronyms are very briefly, not getting into the details of it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the M stands for mind talk. I am a very firm believer that a positive mind talk really makes a difference, and that really set the tone for us to achieve anything and everything. The I stands for ideation. It is important for us to get into that ideation of ideas, focusing on smaller idea and how that smaller idea can make into a bigger idea. So there are some techniques that I've mentioned in my book that how you can go into that ideation process. R stands for reading. I believe that we are just one book away to becoming knowledgeable in any subject. So reading is very, very important to our life. The A stands for analyzation. And my take on analyzation is very few people spend time in knowing who they are, and they do not analyze their strengths and areas of improvements, and they just go on working on their projects. So my request would be get to know yourself. That will really make a difference in your future life. The C stands for calmness. Very rarely things happen in our life with chaos. And at times we need to remain calm and just wait for things to cool down, or let's wait for things to happen in your life. So be calm. I'm talking about few calmness exercise in the book. The L stands for listening. And the way I'm talking about listening, Shrikant, is more about listening to self. Yes, listening to others is also critical, but in my book here, I'm talking about listening to self. So we don't give enough time to our own self, which is we call as a me time or a self time. And the me time, the way we give me time is, watching to a movie or listening to music or playing sports. Yes, amazing. But still give some time in listening to your own self, your inner heart. It will make a difference. The E stands for exercise. And the exercise here, I'm recommending maybe 5 to 10 minutes of physical activity, not those strenuous activity that you will go out and make it happen. Just very small activity, 5 to 10 physical movement. And the S stands for silence. I'm a firm believer. Silence is golden, and it is not about talking every time. Sometimes you will learn by maintaining silence and practicing silence in your daily life. So these 8 habits, if inculcated right, will help us, give us the benefits for a long time.
Well, it's a very nicely coined acronym, I should say, that it has a good selection of both hard skills as well as soft skills. And you do mention about habits for miracles. So these are all the habits once done is what one would kind of see miracle happening. Are there any specific habits? Are there any specific approach? Do they have to do it one after another, or all of it needs to be done together? So how do one go about doing this?
Right, right. No, so no, Shrikant, it is not in a specific order. Now, depending on an individual, you will have to pick and choose. Maybe you are already doing a very good job when it comes to mind talk. So you don't need to focus on that. You are already doing good in exercise. So no, you don't need to do that. My request would be to start with the analyzation. So once you analyze yourself, probably you will be able to determine what will work for you or not. And a note of caution for people who are starting new in inculcating any habit. Most of the time, we see frustration coming in with our people because they are not able to see the result that they want to have. And the input I would want to give is make habit formation as a priority. Sometimes we say that, okay, we want to change our habit, but we don't make it as a priority. And that's where we lack the progress. So make it as a priority. Do not focus on too many habits at one go. Start small, start with just one habit, practice it on a daily basis, and then make it really as your habit before you take on any new thing. So start small. The number 3 I would say is have an accountability partner. Sometimes we say that, okay, I want to do a habit and we just have it within our own mind. But if you share that with a colleague of yours, a friend of yours, a family members of yours who can make you accountable in accomplishing that habit, it will really make a difference. So these are the three things I would recommend. Number one would be make it as a priority. Number two, start small. Don't start big number. And number three, have someone who can be your accountability partner. Uh, when you focus on these things, it will limit your frustration, limit your anxiety, and will allow you not to give up. Otherwise, I have seen in my experience, we give up very soon when we don't see result. And to all those people who are not seeing result, my recommendation would be to just Google the Chinese bamboo tree story. Listen to that story, watch that story. It is available everywhere. You will really see the difference it can make in your life, which is when you don't see result, it is basically helping you to give you more result, bigger result. It's just matter of time.
And you make some very valid points out there. One is to recognize it, start small, have an accountability partner. Don't get frustrated if you don't see results. And the big challenge with lot of the habit formation is the resistance, right? As human species, we are not somebody who will kind of go out there and start doing something new, something different. We always resist that particular change. And would practicing some of these things help to minimize that resistance? Or what have you seen either in your clients or in the workshops that you do? Some tips on how do you overcome those resistance to change or resistance to forming new habits?
So the way I look at it, Shrikant, is people don't resist change. People resist change when they are told to change. So think about when we are going for a new vacation, when we are buying a new car or probably going to a new restaurant. We are very excited when we are trying new things. That is a change for us. We are not resisting for that change. But if someone tells you, maybe your teacher or your manager or your sibling or a parent that do this, that's where you start thinking about resistance. So my recommendation would be, that's where I said about analyzation. So you analyze yourself and you identify what change is required in you to form that habit. So when it is coming from within, then you will really do wonders. And when you are having that resistance, few things that are coming to my mind as you asked in your question, Shrikant. Number one is you have to have belief in yourself. Do not allow anyone else to write your destiny by telling you that you cannot do this, you don't have the power to do this. No, you have to have that belief in yourself that yes, you can do it. Number two is don't wait for that perfect action to take. Don't wait for that perfect moment. Don't wait for that perfect day. Focus on taking action consistently, whether it is perfect or imperfect. The key here is taking action consistently. Most of us, and I am party to it, I have done a couple of times early in my life where we just wait for that moment to happen. And okay, I will start on Monday or I will start on 6 o'clock. That does not happen. So just focus on taking consistent action. And last but not the least, you need to commit to your own self 100%. Self commitment is very, very important that yes, I will make it happen. You don't need any someone's phone call to come. You don't need any alarm for you to wake you up. You need to be self committed. So if we can focus on these three things, which is number one, believe in yourself. Number two, taking consistent action. And number three is commit to yourself 100%. Self-commitment is very, very important. These things will help us in overcoming those resistance that is coming to our mind.
So for all of our listeners who are worried about how do I kind of face the resistance of change, here is a small little acronym coming from Rahul. He's the ABC of the change. A is action, B is belief, and C is commitment. Though in not the same order, but the ABC of
Yeah,
change.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for putting it in an acronym. Yes.
Right. So moving on, Rahul, as we talk about miracles, habits as miracles and how it can play a profound impact if we are intentional about it. One other element in your area of work that you do is working with a lot of mid managers in the area of leadership and development. And with the changing landscape of the world, the changing landscape of technology, what strategies do you use or to inspire and lead teams? What have you seen in close quarters? What do you teach these mid managers that they can take this back as skills and implement back with their teams?
Absolutely. So most of us, when we become leaders or when we become managers, the unfortunate piece is that we not all of us are trained before we take on to that role. Many a times our organizations provide us training once we take on to that role. Probably, yes, there are maybe 15 to 20% of organization who do a very amazing job in preparing future leaders, but 80% of us are not. So what happens when we are not fully trained? Whatever half-cooked information that we have learned through observation, through seeing our own leaders, we try to just portray that into our team members. And that's where we tend to get wrong. So my recommendation would be for all those people who have not been trained or groomed to be a leader, spend time in your own, learning. And the learning, when I say spend time, I am talking time. I'm not talking about money yet. It is time. Listening to the amazing podcasts that people like Shrikant are producing. There are many great podcasts, leadership podcasts that will give you some hacks, some tips and tricks to be a great leader. Number two would be shadowing your existing leader that you admire the most. Learn from them, learn from their mistakes. You don't need to spend 25 years to learn the experience of 25 years. You can just speak to, maybe 10 or 15 leaders that you admire and learn from their mistakes, learn from their challenges, learn from what has worked for them. And the other thing, what I have observed, Shrikant, is we as leaders, we have our own style of dealing with people. And the people whom we manage, they have their own style. And that's where I have seen the mismatch happening because we tend to communicate things, we tend to do things, but it is not getting communicated well. It is not comprehended well. And one of the flaw that I see is in the communication itself. So we communicate to people, we get a message from leaders. Hey, you need to communicate this. We as leaders, we communicate that message. But very rarely we actually get to know that how the message has been taken by people. Because when we are passing on a message, we are passing from a specific perspective. Is the same perspective the other person is having to take on the message? And that's where I have seen that 90% of our change management initiative fail because proper communication is not happening. For that to overcome, it is very important for us as a leaders to know the personality traits of our people, to know how they want to be treated. And that is very much, mentioned in this book, Platinum Rule, where it talks about treat people not that the way you want to treat them, but treat people the way they want to be treated. And that would really make a difference in our own leadership style. Because I believe as a leader, our job is to get work done. Our job is not to do the work. Our job is to get work done from people. And you get work done from people when you are communicating well, when you are showing the empathy to them, when you are being respectful to them, when you are being humble to them, and when you are actually leading by example. So all these things, which is the your empathy, you being humble, respectful, lead by example, you being accountable for the work that you are supposed to do, really makes a difference. And I see a lot of these things are missing today, Shrikant. Unfortunately, we are just going after meeting the numbers. We are just going after getting things done, not thinking more from empathy. So empathy is one of the big piece I see missing in today's leaders.
I think you make some very valid points out there, particularly for mid-career professionals stepping into leadership roles. And the big element there is communication, understanding the perspective. And other element that, if I may were to add, is also about building trust and inspiring confidence, right? As mid-career professionals, if somebody were to take your messaging seriously, if somebody were to kind of hear you out and do stuff that a mid-career manager would want to do, a big element of that is also trust building. A big element of that is how do you influence your team, that is on the back of building the trust, right?
Correct.
So,
Absolutely.
any specific thoughts on that? Any specific observation that you had working with so many mid-career professionals?
Sure. I think trust is everything. Trust, I believe, is the cornerstone of leadership, because if you don't have the trust from your people, things will not go the way you want to make it happen. And I would say one of the reasons why most of the leaders, they lose their trust. So I'm just taking a pivot here before I tell you how to establish trust, how we lose trust as leaders. And the biggest reason that I have seen leaders losing trust is when they do not follow their own commitment. They gave a commitment and they are not able to fulfill. And my request would be that it's okay. Sometimes it happens that you commit and things do not happen the way you plan. The only request is inform the team member before he or she is coming to you for a feedback. The moment you get to know as a leader that you made a commitment and you could not honor for whatever reason, be very transparent and have that conversation with that individual employee to whom you committed. Most of us, what we do is we wait for that employee to come to us, and then we have no answer. So that is where we lose our trust. So for us to build our trust, number one, in my opinion, would be we need to be someone who is accomplishing the task. Whatever task that we as a leader are supposed to do, we are able to accomplish it, and we are accomplishing in time. That is number one. Number two, in my opinion, is being loyal to the absentee. And what I mean by that is sometimes when we are having a conversation with people, we talk about someone who is not present in the meeting or someone who is not present in the conversation. And this is not the positive conversation. You are just adding fuel to the fire. Someone brings a flaw in someone who is not present in the meeting, and you start talking about it. Now, as a leader, unless and until you have observed firsthand, don't go by hearsay. And many a times in the corporate world, that grapevine becomes very strong. So we just tend to take action based on the grapevine. And that is not a right way to take action. So my recommendation would be that do not add fuel to the fire. If you have not heard anything bad about, or if you have not observed any bad things about a particular person who is not in the meeting, don't just say comment. Just say that, hey, I have not observed. So being loyal to the absentee is very, very important in building trust. Number three, I would say is, so praise in public and criticize in private. Criticizing, I mean, is if you want to give a constructive feedback, give that in a closed door. Wherever you have to praise them, give that in public. And that is sometimes done in a opposite way. We praise in the private, and then we criticize in the public environment. So that these are the things that probably allow us to build the trust deficit. So if you need to build trust, number one is be someone who is accomplishing tasks, getting things done for your people. Be there for your people. Be present for your people. Number two would be focus on not being loyal to the absentee. Someone who is not present in the meeting, don't communicate anything that you have not observed. And number three would be for you to focus on making things happen for your people, working with people, being committed to them, being loyal to them by praising them in public and giving them constructive feedback in a private room. That would be my recommendation to start with. Yes, this subject, Shrikant, is so vast that I can go on and on. But if these are three things that are coming to my mind.
Absolutely. These are classic 101 of leadership lessons. Thanks for sharing that. So here comes the first of the power of three round question to you, Rahul. If you were to give three advice to your older self, what would those three pieces of advice be?
Number one, don't focus on being a perfectionist. Number two, take consistent action. And number three, listen to yourself. You have a power to make things happen. Listen to yourself. So these will be three advice.
Good start. You did speak about books. We will be a little more greedy and ask you 3 book recommendations that you have thought shared already.
Okay, Extreme Ownership. Extreme Ownership is the one of the amazing leadership book that I would recommend to everyone. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you are a new leader, that is another book I would recommend. And the third book I would probably say would be Inner Engineering.
Great recommendations out there. So Rahul, if you were to pick 3 individuals who can be featured on this podcast as future guests, who would those 3 individuals be?
One, I would recommend Ashish Gapre. He is the founder of HR Shapers, one of the bigger organization in India. The other individual I would recommend who is really making a key difference in the change in young leaders, though I don't know this person personally, but I have seen him through social, is Ash Doc. He is one of the motivational speaker, I think based in Mumbai. I really admire the way he is bringing thoughts to people. And the another person who I would want to be here, it's an ex colleague of mine. His name is S. Reddy. He's coming from a CFO background. But what I admire about him is his willingness to learn about people, his willingness to go deeper into this people aspect, which I see in most of the leaders missing, specifically someone from the finance background, because they're more on the numbers, less on people. Those will be my 3 recommendations.
So continuing on, Rahul, you work in the field of transformative leadership. So if you were to share 3 micro habits that our listeners can start working on it starting tomorrow morning, what would those 3 micro habits be like?
Number one would be positive affirmation, which is nothing but a positive mind talk. So if you can start talking positively to yourself for first thing in the morning and the last thing when you go to bed, that would be number one. Number two is start your physical movement, even while having calls, while having your meetings. Not meetings like physical meeting, but if it is a virtual meeting, you can do walking. So start physical movement. Number three, I would say is be in the moment, stay present instead of focusing on about the future or focusing on the past. Just be present in the moment. So now this will not happen overnight, but you have to take conscious effort to make yourself available in the moment. Those were the 3 things that is coming to my mind.
Sure. The last of the power of 3 round, Rahul, since you're in the field of people development, career advice, career management, leadership, what are 3 flavors that you have come across that has helped you a lot?
Sure. So the first thing is identifying the time that really where I'm most productive. So I've identified throughout this 12-hour day or a 20-hour day, what is the time that I'm productive. And I use the time more as a power hours. So I just focus on getting the bigger tasks accomplished into those power hours. Number two is I'm a very curious learner. So I am looking to learn things either in the movies that I watch or the serials I watch. So I'm a very adamant reader as well as viewer of a positive podcast as well as positive videos. That is number two. Number three is I've always surrounded by mentor and a coach who is constantly giving me feedback, constantly giving me inputs. And I would say last 2 years, probably I had 5 to 6 different coaches because the field that I am stepping into, which is an entrepreneurship, was something new for me. So I had to deal with many things. So I have different coaches, not just one coach. So depending on the area, depending on the field, which is like, social media, information technology. So having a coach is very, very important. So those will be three things that has really helped me in achieving the results that I have been able to.
So even a coach needs a coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. So that was the power of the round, Rahul. As we move along, since our focus of today's conversation is revolving around career trajectory transformation, and we are at a phase in the world where change is working at a breakneck speed, right? The name of the game today in the business world, in the personal world, professional world is constant change and change at breakneck speed. How do you embrace this change, stay innovative, stay relevant in the times that we are?
Yeah. So very good point that you are bringing in. And the first recommendation or first thought that is coming to my mind is we need to be surrounded by positive influencers. And what I call them as inner circle. So our inner circle has to be of those people who are constantly giving us positive energy, constantly giving us positive vibe. Because in the change of times, it's very easy for us to get into that negativity zone because we are just thinking that things are just not happening for us. You learn something and that thing is changing. So it's important to get surrounded with positive people. Number two is, I've said earlier, which is that belief. So you need to have that belief in your own confidence, in your own abilities, that you can make it happen. Now, the only caveat I would say is it's just not about belief. You can't just believe that, okay, you will cross the Niagara Falls on a rope. You will make it happen. It will not happen, right? So the belief is important, but you need to take those action on a consistent basis. For example, for a student who is in a senior year or a junior year to get a new job, you can't just, think that the opportunity will come on your lap. You really need to go out, step out and find for your employers. Whereas I'm a firm believer, Shrikant, is finding a job in the senior year, which is the last year of your degree, is already too late, in my opinion. You need to start early. So let's say if you're an MBA, doing an MBA from first year of your MBA, you should start looking out for a job or start preparing for the job. Same way, if you're in engineering, fourth year engineering is too late. You should start working on the first year of engineering. The last but not the least, on this constant change that is happening, you need to embrace that calmness and this in your life. We are constantly focusing on just moving. And what calmness will do, so as I spoke about the execution and taking action, it is equally important the speed of execution. The speed of execution is important. And when you are calm, then you are able to think very, very wisely how quickly you need to take that action. Because if you are thinking about something today and you are taking action after 1 week, probably that action will not give you the result that it should have given you the moment you thought about it, you take action. So speed of execution, in my opinion, is important in this changing time. We cannot just spend too much of time in thinking and convert that thinking into analysis and paralysis, but we should focus on speed of execution. So those would be the three things I would recommend.
Indeed. Rahul, we spoke about a multitude of topics, starting with miracles, habit formation, resistance, career trajectories, so on and so forth. Ultimately, we do all of these things as a human species because we drive happiness through all of this. Success gives us happiness. Job accomplishments which drive towards happiness. The definition of happiness is different for different people, but the ultimate end goal is happiness in different shape and form. And to that extent, you practice something called as the circle of happiness. What is that, and how do we kind of bring all of this to this wonderful concept called as the circle of happiness?
So I believe that if we want to be happy, there are things will not just happen with the click of a button or just a twist. There is a lot of efforts that we need to give in our own self. And the way I have defined this approach, circle of happiness, starts with the positive mind talk. So you need to start with positivity in your mind by talking positive things to your mind. When we are positive, when we are doing positive mind talk, what it does, it helps us in having positive thoughts in our mind. So positive mind talk leads to positive thoughts. These positive thoughts allow us to take positive action. And these positive action focus on building the positive mindset, building the positivity around us, and eventually lead to a positive and happier life. So if you do the backtracking, it starts with our own thoughts, which is the positive mind talk. Positive mind talk leads to positive thoughts leads to positive action. Positive action really builds our mindset into positive mindset, which take us to stay very happier and positive life. And the why I call it as a circle of happiness, Shrikant, is because the once you are happy, then if you do not practice this again, if you do not have that positive mind talk, positive thoughts and positive action, again, things will go into tandem. So it's important for you to practice it on a regular basis. That's where I call it as a circle of happiness. Once you are happy, then yes, you will stay happy for a period of time, maybe few hours, a few days. But if you do not come back and start practicing mind talk, positive mind talk, then those negative elements will start to creep in. So that's what I call it as a circle of happiness. And then we need to consistently make it happen.
Great. So Rahul, this show is all about creating ripples of inspiration. I am sure through this conversation, you would have definitely touched the heart and soul of for many of our listeners. Like we always do, I ask my guest before we sign off to share their Inspire Someone Today message with all of our listeners. So what's your Inspire Someone Today message today?
I would say be bold. And by bold, I have this acronym BOLD. B stands for believe in yourself. O is optimistic. L stands for love yourself. And D stands for dream. So it's very, very important for us to have this belief, be optimistic, taking self-care of ourselves, loving ourselves, and dreaming. Because if you don't dream, you will not have a purpose. And by being bold, show the gratitude to people, extend the kindness to people, because that gratitude and kindness will bring a lot of positivity in you. So be bold, be humble, be positive.
Be bold, be humble, be positive. If not anything, there is tons of lovely acronyms that we have been able to get out of this conversation. I hope my dear listeners will take few of what it is and implement, if not all, at least a few of them. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. This is Shrikant, your host, signing off. Until next time, continue to carry the ripples of inspiration. Stay inspired, keep spreading the light.